To me, one of the biggest things that's maybe flying under people's radar is the Chevron overturning. That is huge because it could be incredibly disruptive to a whole lot of areas, including privacy. Federica, can you kind of touch on that a little bit?
Sure, I promise I will be short. I'm mindful of time, but I agree with you, Paul. It's super important, right? And obviously, privacy is one aspect of it. So just as a little background, right? The Chevron decision is a actually pretty old precedent. I think it was 1984 that established a doctrine, a legal doctrine of deferring to administrative agencies in their interpretation of ambiguous statutes. So when a statute granting agency authority is ambiguous, right? Agencies are expected to fill the gap, and a court should defer to the agency interpretation so long as the interpretation is reasonable. It's what it's called Chevron deference. So what happened is that on a couple of days ago, on June 28th, the Supreme Court overruled Chevron in a case Relentless and Loper Bright. So what the decision says is that judges, not agencies, are charged with resolving ambiguities in statutes. So I don't think we have kind of a clear sort of full understanding of the practical consequences. I think what we can anticipate is that what comes to mind immediately is obviously regulation from federal agencies like Federal Trade Commission. We got the rulemaking on COPPA, GLBA, commercial surveillance and data security, Federal Communications Commission, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or on the health data side, the Department of Health and Human Services and the Office for Civil Rights. And so we have to see, right, how this will play out. But certainly it's that I also think it could kind of disrupt Congress' ability to draft statutes that, are ambiguous, maybe, and leave, too much leeway, right, for ambiguities and interpretation, which also, plays in the context, of course, of all the regulations that I briefly mentioned before.
Chevron is a super interesting case. There are kind of pros and cons because the courts in many situations are the interpreters of ambiguity. And yet for 40 years, people have been deferring to the agencies to fill in ambiguities who have expertise that they've built up. But it's a super fascinating case. I agree that we'll have to see what happens.